Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure review. Alright, so today we're going to jump back way into the time machine, maybe about 17 years ago, as we revisit this version of the Masters of the Universe character, Hordak. Okay, so if you've been watching my videos for some time now, you'll realize that this is an action figure I kind of looked at a couple of times in the past. But the reason why we're reviewing it today is because I was very lucky, and a few weeks ago I was able to obtain this figure complete and not broken. The previous version of this figure that I had, it was missing all of the accessories, it was broken, and I kind of had to customize and repair it. But this is a figure pretty much as it came stock back in 2005. Alright, so where to begin? Alright, so this figure here is obviously Hordak from the Masters of the Universe. This figure was produced in 2005 by NECA. It was not produced by Mattel. So during the early 2000s, Mattel brought back He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And that line is something that nowadays fans affectionately refer to as the Masters of the Universe 2000X line, denoting that it was from like the early 2000s. The figures during that time, all the characters are kind of like re-envisioned to how they'd look, in a modern era. Modern being, the early 2000s. The figures were very anime in design, especially the head sculpts. The figures, I believe, were designed by the Four Horsemen art studio way back when. And unfortunately, the 2000X line didn't last very long. I want to say that the line ended with what was it? I think Rise of the Snake Men. And when that line kind of ended, it really disappointed a lot of fans because they didn't get around to doing all the fan favorite characters. So then in 2005, or I think maybe a year before that, NECA, they were able to obtain the license from Mattel. And what they did was, still using the same studio, the Four Horsemen studio, they produced a line of action figures. And they weren't necessarily action figures. They were more so like smaller resin statues. And they were designed by the Four Horsemen. And the scale of the figures, the design aesthetic, it was very much in line with the original 2000X line that was produced by Mattel. So, if you displayed these alongside the Mattel figures, they'd fit in naturally because the proportions were the same, the design aesthetic was the same, the sculpting was the same. The only thing different was that these were not fully fledged action figures. They lack articulation. And, they're not really meant to be played with. These are essentially just small statues. And it was a cool idea, a cool concept. And nowadays, it's, if you try to hunt down some of these figures on the secondary market, they could go for a lot of money. And if you're kind of a completionist when it comes to the 2000X line and you want all the characters, you might have to look beyond the Mattel range and then consider, picking these up. For me personally, I think these are a great addition to like any 2000X collection. Just because they fit in so well. They look exactly like how they should have looked if Mattel produced them themselves, since they use the same art studio. Even the accessories, even though they lack like actual plain functionality, they're really well done. And it looks like a toy. This looks like it should be like a legit toy, but it's just really just a statue. Alright, so with that said, let's talk about the figure itself. So I believe this is complete. So not only did you get the Hordak figure, you got a display stand, and then on the back, 2005 Mattel NECA, made in China. Nicely sculpted detailing. This looks almost like something out of like Star Trek. This almost looks like a Borg alcove with all the circles and all the highlights and Technic stuff. It comes with Hordak's crazy crossbow. Again, this looks like it should be a functional toy, but it's not. This is more so kind of like a display accessory. But it kind of like, it gets your imagination going. Like what if the line continued on back in the 2000s, and Mattel did, move forward and give us a Hordak figure. This is clearly, easily, what the accessory would look like. And if this was a real toy, I'm guessing that, you'd probably press the skull up here and this would shoot out. But it's unfortunate that, Mattel never got around to making an actual Hordak. But at the same time, it's kind of cool that NECA picked up the reins and actually gave us a figure. So we'll talk about the figure last. Let's go to his staff. So Hordak's staff here is actually in two pieces. Here's the head of the staff. Has the Hordak logo, the trademark bat wings, the three-forked prong, or the three-pronged fork. I got that backwards. So this is actually, my piece here is actually cracked, if you look right there. And I'm guessing it's only because the tolerance here was really tight, and, when you insert this, I'm guessing over time it either cracked over time or just cracked initially. Now, the reason why this breaks up into two pieces is because since this is not a standard action figure, it's not made of that kind of soft plastic that you're used to. Like I said, I believe this might be resin, and the fingers, they're not flexible like the standard action figure. So the reason why this staff breaks apart is because in order to deposit it into his hand, you first have to take the bottom of the spear or the staff, place it in underneath, and then the top of the staff, you assemble it on top. And then that kind of completes the look. Now for the figure itself, the Four Horsemen, that studio, they produced some fantastic work. I believe that they're currently working on, I want to say, Mythic Legions. It's not a line of toys I collect, but I see photos online all the time. And those action figures are amazing. The sculpting is really second to none here. As you can see, great texturing and detailing on Hordak. The face is mind-blowing. If you're so used to the original toy, this kind of gives you an idea of what, Hordak would look like if it was, sculpted by, a movie studio or something that you'd see, in a live-action film. The detailing on the cape is spectacular. This is, along the lines of something you'd see, on a Spawn action figure. Incredible amount of detail. And I think what's even more amazing is I want to say these figures back in the day, they were sculpted, the prototypes are sculpted by hand. It's not like nowadays where a lot of the designs of action figures are all done on the computer. Whereas today, they create 3D models and they work off of that. Back then, these were, actually sculpted by hand. And the detail here, as you can see, is just amazing. And then here's his crossbow. Let's get into his hand. The crossbow is kind of a loose fit. The fingers aren't as wrapped as tightly as they should be. But there's a trigger finger right there, and then there's the trigger, and you can kind of navigate it and just thread it through. But it doesn't really hold all that well. You're probably better off just displaying this guy without the crossbow. Although this is a really cool looking accessory though. The display stand's very, self-explanatory. You just prop them on there. And then you have the figure. It's really nice. It's like I said, these 2000X statues by NECA, they're amazing. They blend in really well with the Mattel action figures from that time period. I also have a clawful, but that one's kind of incomplete. I just have the figure. I'm missing the accessories and the base. And I want to say some of the other figures that were in this series. I think there was a sorceress, I believe. There might have been a King Randor also. I gotta look into that. But yeah, this is a fabulous action figure. If you're a big fan of Hordak, and who isn't, this thing is friggin' amazing. Yeah, definitely worth the purchase for me. So some videos way back, you'll remember that this figure actually made a couple of appearances. And this is the one that I restored and repaired. I got this guy secondhand, and he was broken and he had the crap kicked out of him. He was missing his left forearm. He was missing the front of his skirt. So I kind of had to repair it. And as you can see, I think I did a pretty decent job. Like, if you never saw the original figure, you wouldn't know any better. The hand I have here is a Mcfarland Spawn hand. I want to say it's from possibly Medieval Spawn. A figure that came out in late 90s, early 2000s. And the scale of the figure was about the same size as the 2000X figures. So the proportions of the fingers kind of matches this. And, you know, Mcfarland figures, their sculpting and detailing, it's always insane. So, you know, as insane as this looks, it kind of fits in with the rest of this design aesthetic. The skirt, I believe I pulled from a Samurai Spawn figure from the early 2000s, and I just repainted it black. But like I said, if you never saw the original figure, you wouldn't know any better. So, alright, so let's wrap this video up. Is this something you need? If you're a 2000X fan and you never went beyond just the Mattel figures, I'd say yes. The prices on these figures, they're a little high, but if you're a completionist and you want, you know, additional characters to your 2000X shelf, I think these figures are worth hunting down. Again, they're not fully fledged action figures. They're really just smaller statues, but the scale of the figure, the proportions, and the details are really much in line with that much beloved line of Masters of the Universe figures that Mattel gave us, you know, almost 20 years ago. Alright, so let's wrap this up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.